And then when you remember when Saturday Night Live spoofed it with with Crystal Gravy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Oh God,
That's
playing.
funny.
It wasn't the same song, but it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a something similar that
Yeah.
just
Crystal Gravy.
like dumping on mashed potatoes.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. That's awesome.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to Greatest Lists, a music and talk podcast featuring lists of the greatest songs of all time. I am Eric, your host for this episode, and joining me is my Crystal Gravy co-host, Jason. How's it going, Jason?
Oh yes, I still have a can of Crystal Pepsi, not opened, but I kept the can because I knew it was going to be, worth thousands of dollars and be a collector's item someday.
We are currently making our way through the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s, and we are up to number 2. In this episode, we're talking about the legend himself, Edward Van Halen, and the song from Van Halen, Poundcake.
Behind the music.
Edward Ludwig Van Halen was born in Amsterdam on January 26, 1955. After his family experienced mistreatment because his parents were a mixed-race relationship in the 1950s, his father was Dutch, his mother was Indonesian. The parents moved the family to the U.S. in 1962, settling near Pasadena, California, where Eddie and his brother Alex attended a segregated elementary school. Since the boys did not speak English as a first language, they were considered quote-unquote minority students, and they experienced bullying from the white students. Eddie and his brother began learning the piano at age 6, but Edward was never taught to read music. Instead, he watched recitals of Bach and Mozart repertoire and improvised. His parents wanted both the boys to be classical pianists, but Edward gravitated towards rock music and was greatly influenced by the 1960s British invasion bands like the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five. Consequently, when Alex began to play guitar, Eddie bought a drum kit. However, after he heard Alex's performance of the song Wipeout, he gave Alex the drums and began learning the electric guitar. According to Eddie, as a teen, he often practiced while walking around the house with his guitar strapped on or sitting in his room for hours with the door locked. In 1972, Eddie and Alex formed the band Mammoth. And 2 years later, when their lead singer joined the band, named David Lee Roth, they officially changed the name to Van Halen and quickly became a staple of the Los Angeles music scene. Now, Eddie is most associated with the Frankenstrat. It's a custom-built guitar just from parts that he found. The original maple neck cost him $80, and the body cost him $50 because the wood had a knot in it. The tremolo arm was originally taken from a 58 Fender Stratocaster and was later replaced with a Floyd Rose arm. He frequently replaced the neck on the guitar, going through a number of different ones throughout the years, and the pickup configurations changed almost as frequently. In its most commonly used configuration, the guitar had a single functioning pickup, the Gibson PAF bridge pickup, which he enclosed with paraffin wax to prevent the feedback. The middle pickup was removed, and in its place, he stuffed a non-functional selector switch and random wires. And the neck pickup slot was replaced with a red single coil pickup that was also non-functional. The original selector switch and tone knobs were removed. The volume knob was replaced with a knob labeled tone. The Frankenstrat, as shown on the cover of Van Halen 1, was originally painted black, but was recoated with a Schwinn red bicycle paint in 1979. Our featured song, Poundcake, was the first song to be released as a single from the band's album For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. and it reached number 1 on the U.S. Billboard Album Rock Tracks chart and number 74 on the UK Singles chart. Explaining the lyrical influence of the song, Sammy Hagar said that he liked people who were like Poundcake. That is, what you see is what you get, nothing to hide. To which I reply, sure, Sammy, that's what the song is. The album for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge won the 1992 Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance with Vocals.
Let's get personal.
So I think I've mentioned before, maybe in one of our previous episodes, that Eddie is one of the 3 guitar players that I listened to when I was younger that made me want to play guitar. My introduction to Ed was the album 1984. I had no idea that Van Halen had a back catalog at the time. I heard the album 84 and was like, wow, this guy's amazing. And somebody asked me, have you heard all the other Van Halen albums? What, there are other Van Halen albums? I had no idea. No idea whatsoever. But I do, but this is how much he influenced me. The first guitar lesson I took, I went in with my guitar and sat down, and the first lesson he wanted to teach me he wanted me to learn every note on every string from the first fret to the 24th fret. And I was I was like, okay. I walked out of that lesson, and the guy that owned the music store where I was taking the lesson, he goes, well, how'd it go? I go, yeah, I'm not coming back to this. And he goes, well, why not? I said, because I don't want to learn what he's teaching me. He goes, well, what do you want to learn? I said, I want to play guitar like Eddie Van Halen. And he thought for a second, and he goes, okay, come back next week. I have a guy for you. And he changed my entire guitar lesson, or my entire guitar teacher lineup because I said that, because I wanted to get it.
Hey, you like what you like, right?
Hey, you like what you like. Yeah. What's your history with Van Halen?
Yeah, goes back mainly 1984 as well. That's an album I can listen to top to bottom, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
Love the entire album. And it wasn't until, I always talk about it, but this is when I got more of their back catalog, was the Columbia House and BMG era. I got the first, I think it's the self-titled album, right? Yeah, with Ring with the Devil and Eruption and all that.
Yeah.
And that one just kind of blew my mind too, because I had heard some of the songs on the radio, but yeah, I was a big Van Halen fan up through the 80s to the 90s. Even with the changeover to Sammy, I had 5150. I love that album too. Yes. And I lean more towards the David Lee Roth era, but I do have a appreciation for the Van Hagar era. And these early 90s songs in particular, well, early to mid 90s and the albums, got a new appreciation for those over the last maybe decade.
Right.
So this one, I remember going out and buying this album soon after I heard Poundcake on the radio and watching the music video on MTV. Yeah. It was the first single that was released, and this has happened to me several times over the years. Maybe it's happened to you, and I love it when it happens, but I love it when you buy the album early and you listen to it over and over and over, based on like whatever the first single.
Yeah.
And then when the next single comes out, which was for this song Right Now, and then Runaround, you feel like you've got a little insider knowledge to the song. When you hear it, you're around your friends and you're like, the lyrics, you're singing along, or there's a certain part you tell, oh, listen to this coming up right here.
Awesome.
You earn a little like extra cool points thanks to buying an album early. And this happened to me with this album in particular.
Nice.
That, gosh, I loved the album, went out and bought it. And, there was a little behind the scenes thing, I think, on MTV, because what they wanted to call this album, or what Eddie wanted to call the album first. Yeah. You know what that stands for.
Yeah.
For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
Yeah.
So I remember watching kind of the behind the scenes of this on MTV and hearing them talk about it after I got into hearing the first single and stuff, So yeah, this is one of my favorites from Van Halen for sure.
Nice.
And Poundcake, yeah, we'll break it down, but he breaks out the Franken drill, a freaking drill painted like the Frankenstrat,
Yep.
Amazing.
The breakdown.
So I think we both agree that the drill makes the song, right?
Yeah,
the
it's
drill
so
makes the
unique,
song,
man. So unique.
The song, if you've never heard it, features Eddie Van Halen using the sound of a Makita 6012 HD power drill in the introduction and during the solo. According to Eddie, the guitar technician was operating one of these drills at his 5150 studio while he was playing. And to Eddie, the sound captured was akin to kick-starting your engine. So, like Jason just says, subsequently, Eddie painted a drill with the Frankenstrat stripes and used it during the concerts whenever he would play it. That's my favorite. I mean, hands down, that's my favorite part of the song. No matter if it's the intro.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love that drill sound.
And that was the coolest thing. I mean, the first time I saw that on the music video, I wanted to buy the album. I mean, that was just a hook right there. Who does that? Eddie does that.
Yeah. My favorite part of the solo, of the main solo, is the little tapping run he does right before the end of the solo. That's probably my favorite. Eddie, there's lots of harmonics and tapping in this song. And how fast and how often he switches between all of his techniques just justifies why he is the original rock god. He's the original guitar hero. I've always been intrigued and impressed by the way he structures and builds a solo. Like we were just saying in the last episode, if you can sing along with a solo, you've done something right. There's not a lot of solos that Eddie has that I can hum along or sing along to. But that doesn't mean they're not good or you can't appreciate it. It's just the way he structures stuff is just so different.
Yeah, it's not harmonics. It's not melodic, really. It's more just hitting certain notes and lots of tapping. Of course, he loves the tapping. Yeah. There's so many different things he builds into it to make it more of a complete thought versus something that you're just gonna sing along to. So
yeah, one thing I've always noticed about Van Halen, either during the Roth era or the Van Hagar era, like if you go see a band live and they only have one guitar player, when that guitarist drops out to play a solo, the music kind of gets thin. Like, because there's no guitar playing anymore. It's just the solo. But you never get that with Van Halen.
No.
Because the way he plays rhythm is the same way he plays a solo. So it's all the same thing to him. And you never get a drop in the music because he's playing a solo. That's what I've always loved about Eddie, is that there's never, well, now I'm playing rhythm and now I'm playing a solo. He's just playing.
Yeah.
It's all the same to him. And that's one thing I've always loved about him and his playing.
My favorite part of the solo is basically the intro where Sammy, this might be, several of these songs might be some of his best singing, but he gets so high right as he's going to the solo, and Eddie almost matches that note, that really high note that Sammy hits.
Yes, that's amazing.
Oh, so amazing. And then the, it's just classic Eddie.
Yeah.
There's a part like towards the end of the solo, it almost sounds like he's double tracking, but like you said, throughout the song, even though it's just him and he's doing so many different things, there's no dead space or dead air or anything behind him.
Yeah.
And that's what I love too about Van Halen. Not enough credit is given to like Michael Anthony and what he provides with his backing vocals and just some of the bass rhythms too that throughout the songs.
holding down the deep end of it.
Yeah. And just I don't know, some of the patterns that Alex plays too with cymbals. He's a great cymbalist, if that's a thing. But I like the way he uses his cymbals. It's not your traditional.
Yeah, he doesn't play. He plays drums as differently as Eddie plays guitar.
Yeah, and that's what makes Van Halen so great. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. So Eddie Van Halen comes in at number 2 in our countdown of the top 25 solos of the 90s, which, I mean, who's going to top Eddie Van Halen?
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to top that?
You got your wheels spinning out there, listeners.
So, what are the songs? We got them. From the same album, we have a song called 316, which Eddie wrote for his son, Wolfgang. From the 1996 movie Twister, we have a song called Respect the Wind.
Yes.
Funny story about Twister. I saw that movie like 4 or 5 times in the theater. I mean, I stayed through the credits because that song's playing over the credits.
Right.
Yeah. And then from their 1995 album, Balance, is a song called Baluchitherium. So if you're a Spotify premium user, you're getting ready to hear all 3 of those songs in their entirety. If you're a free Spotify user, you're going to hear a little snippet of it. And if you don't use Spotify at all, then you're going to have to use the Song Whip links in the show notes to find the songs in your favorite music app. Give us your thoughts on this episode or any episode, really. You can find us on Twitter at Greatest Lists, or you can head over to our website, greatestlistpodcast.com, and you can stream any and all episodes to your heart's desire. Jason, we'll be back for our final episode of the first half of season 2. Season 2.
Yeah,
Number 1 is coming up in the next episode. Thanks for listening to The Greatest Lists, and we look forward to continuing our list next episode.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.